Hi, baby angels. It's BB. I am back for another VR/tarot tag. This is a VR to Marlena Teresa. I don't know how, I know how to pronounce Marlena, but not Teresa. Her tag, Tarot to the Extreme. So I probably could have chosen 50 decks per category. But what I'm trying to do is show different decks from my collection. So there may be decks in my collection that you expected to see, but you will not see. Yeah, so maybe these will be surprising, maybe they won't. Like, specifically, I could have used Telesma Tarot in multiple categories, and I didn't because I just showed it in my last video, and I also have plans to show it in other videos. So yeah, this is what it is. This is a really cool tag. It seems really fun. It was kind of hard for me to pick, like I said, so I guess let's start. The first versus, which is what this tag is made up of, is called Minimalist versus Maximalist. And for my Minimalist deck, I chose the Modern Seer Tarot. This was by Kristen McGraw. It was a Kickstarter. And it quite literally is like as minimalist as you can get, almost. It's made up of line drawings. It's only 2 colors. The lines feel very organic, and in that sense, it makes it very emotive to me. It gives me amazing readings, surprisingly. Or maybe not surprisingly. I tend to be, Marlena said she was a Gemini, and I really appreciate that because, as you guys know, if you are new, welcome, that I too am a Gemini. And so extremes or dualities are like places I feel really comfortable in. And so I was going to say I'm a very maximalist person, but at the same time, I am very drawn to decks with a lot of negative space, decks that breathe, and decks that have a lot of sophistication in their simplicity. I wouldn't say this is the most sophisticated of looking like decks, but I don't think it looks unsophisticated. It just is more of a natural, I think it's very tasteful. And I like it. Okay, so that's my Minimalist. Let's grab what I chose for Maximalist. Like I said, I think a lot of decks that I have could be Maximalist. And then I also struggled with like conflating maximalism with luxury because I have a lot of luxurious decks. Like, yeah, okay, I'm just gonna keep going with that thought. I have a lot of luxurious decks or that feel like very divine, right? Like, they feel expensive, they feel indulgent, but the imagery isn't necessarily super maximalist. And so I chose this one, which has very thin, like it's very bendy, it's very thin, but the imagery is really maximalist. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of texture, there's a lot of color, there are a lot of different visual elements. P.S. I feel like when watching other people's videos, it's the maximalist decks that I was responding to most, and I was like writing them down like, okay, I need that one. The Journeymans, I think, was one, and then, oh man, I can't remember. I love this deck. Okay, so let's see them together. You get it, right? This is, you see the maximalism in this deck. This is such a cool deck. I wish the cards were bigger, and I feel like I'm the only person on the planet Earth nowadays that says that. Okay, let's see. Should I shuffle them up a little bit so we see different cards, maybe? Okay. Kind of not different, but whatever. Do they look good together? Not so far. No, I would not pair these together. Maybe it's funny because a lot of times in the videos that I've seen, people have said, oh, I wouldn't pair these together, but I thought they looked good. And it's like a trick of the camera thing. Like, these don't look bad because it has some of that color in it. And sometimes the color doesn't need to match. Sometimes it's something like a different element of the card. But these don't feel the most cohesive. There are, like, every once in a while. Like whenever this, it is the color for me for this one because this is, it doesn't have a lot to go off of, but whenever there's that like peachy. Okay, so that's pairing number 1. Disclaimer, if you're on my channel, there is nudity in my decks, always. So, the second pairing is, and I'm sorry if I sound weird, I just woke up and I'm congested, so yay, you have to listen to me talk. Daytime versus nighttime. So my daytime deck, I chose the Heroine Tarot by Gina Schiapacase. Wow, I'm really bad at that. This was also a Kickstarter. This is the first edition. And I really liked what Marlena was saying about starting her day with a deck. I think she chose the Frau Grand Duchess, which is a great pick, and I would have definitely chosen that too. So I thought about that. I thought about this deck being so vibrant in its energy, and fashion forward. Like, I thought about getting dressed at the beginning of the day. I thought about setting intentions of the type of energy I wanted to embody that day. I think that the soft nature of this illustration style is just a great way to welcome the energy of the day. It does feel like daytime. There are some, like I was going to say, there are some cards that literally depict night or have a black background. Wow, like on cue. I love it. But overall, even those don't feel especially nighttime for me. My favorite, Molly Ringwald. It's such a happy deck. Okay. I mean, you guys, this might be a short video. I don't have a lot of explanation for these. It's kind of, they kind of speak for themselves, right? Okay, so the night deck that I chose was the Tarot of the Cat People. And maybe that's because we associate cats with femininity and the moon and everything that goes along with that, like more, speaking of, like, I was like, is it more yin or more yang? I think it's yin. But this feels like night. It feels like this planet always has a moody, dark sky. Or like, you know, the sunset. Or this feels like a nighttime deck. This feels like a reflection deck. Like what you would do at the end of your day. This feels like very heavily science fiction. in my mind. I don't know, because it's a different planet, right? It's like these cat people live on a different planet and they have this rich culture, and since, you know, we haven't discovered or made contact with other cultures in the universe, for now it feels science fiction-y. It feels calming. So cuddly. Yeah, I don't know, I think this is a really good night deck. I never thought about my decks that way before, but you know, if you don't use, you know, decks from day and night, you can say one's an intention deck and one is a reflection deck. Okay, so let's put them side by side. This is such a cool exercise because I feel like now I want to implement these decks this way. Like it's giving me such good ideas. Those are kind of cool color-wise. They both have kind of like head adornments. I don't know. I don't think they're matched like really well. And then like I get like a good colorway, you know, like the reddish tone and the green. That's cool. They're both holding two things. They're balanced. They're both sitting. Ooh, they're both sitting, but you know what I mean? We look for, I guess that's what we do. That's what like card readers do, is we look for similarities. That was funny. Yeah, both very cool decks, both very different, maybe not as like easily, you know, like when you look at some of people's like side by sides, you're like, yes, day, yes, night, or yes, minimal, yes, maximal. And then sometimes I, like when I was watching other videos, like thinking like, I don't feel like there's that much of a contrast between like the decks, you know, like I can't tell the minimal versus maximal, or it's not enough of a contrast for me. Maybe that is my Geminian spirit that like wants more of a difference. And like, so I'm looking at these and I'm like, do they look that different? Does this look like day and this look like night? Yeah, I think so. But I guess because they're both a little bit, they're not the most saturated of decks. Like I'm getting that. I am feeling that need to be like, it should be high contrast and low contrast or something. But no, it's there. The difference is there. See, even this, like, maybe it's because there's watercolor and like the saturation, like I said, is like not as dark, and there's a lot of white within the colored parts, you know, you're getting a lot of the background through it, that it feels more light and airy and daytime. Okay, that's enough. So that was our verses. I feel like there should be a winner. There's no winner. Oh my gosh. I just like, what do you do with your decks when you're done looking at them? I like set them aside so precariously and then they all fall and it's stressful. Okay. Number 3, best shuffle versus worst shuffle. So I have to disclaimer this. I don't notice the shuffle very much. Because if it's a bad shuffle, obviously I notice that, but like, I don't really care. So I don't really keep score per se, you know, for lack of a better term. But I did have one that came to mind immediately for worst shuffle, because someone commented on a video of mine that it looked like I was having difficulty like showing the cards, like pulling them apart. And I was like, oh yeah, like I'm not even that self-aware. And then I also, for best shuffle, just thought, you know, looked through my cabinet and was like, okay, what do I think would be a good shuffle? Found one I hadn't shown in a while, shuffled it, and was like, yeah, this is a great shuffle. So that's the New Wave Tarot. This is an older deck. I don't know when it was made. It is out of print. I apologize. It looks like this. I guess I talk about the cardstock and not the pictures. Okay. The reason I like this is it feels like there's a core. I'm not afraid that like it's gonna like bend to the point where it makes a line. It feels sturdy, but it's thin and it's still easily bendable. So like I'm not afraid to riffle shuffle. I don't riffle shuffle most of the time. And so yeah, maybe that's why another reason why I don't really pay attention to the shuffle very much. But this one, it feels like a playing card deck. It feels like a poker deck, I think. I mean, it's not the same size, but yeah, it feels really sturdy. So let's give it a riffle. Let's put it to the test. Wow, that wasn't a very good shuffle, but that was user error. It doesn't even bridge that well. But, I mean, that's not a necessity for me. I think what I am most afraid of when I riffle shuffle is damaging the cards or bending the cards. And I'm not afraid that they're going to keep a bend, you know? Okay, that was a little better. I'm also shuffling on like a little table, which is like not the best. So if I were on like a regular table and sitting in a chair, I'd probably do a better job. But yeah. It also hand over hands like really smoothly too, but the cards have like weight to them. So I like to get flyers, and like if a deck doesn't shuffle well as far as like hand over hand, like, and I don't get any flyers, it's really obnoxious. I'm tired and I want those flyers to come out. Okay, Page of Cups, King of Discs. Great day. What a great day. What a good omen. Okay, so that was the best shuffle. It's the New Wave Tarot. And my worst shuffle goes to the Wild Unknown Archetypes. We all know it. It has two things going against it. It is a circular deck, or maybe three things. It's a circular deck, it's a large deck, and it has a matte finish. Or maybe it's not even the finish. Maybe it's just the cardstock. It's a thick cardstock. Let's say that, because the finish is nice. And it's not a sticky finish. But the cardstock. See, like, this is two cards. How do you shuffle this? I think I do this. I don't think I have particularly small hands. I've said this before, I have air sign hands, which means I have large palms and I have long fingers. So my fingers don't even look long compared to my palms because my palms are wide and they're long. And that's a very air sign thing, to just have this shape of hand. If you have this shape of hand, you might have heavy air sign energy in your chart. So yeah, I tend to do this, but see how like chunky it is? Like, so there are probably, unless I go through the deck and I pull apart every single card, there are probably cards that I'm never going to pull because that shuffle doesn't lend itself to mixing the cards very well. There might be chunks that are always gonna stay chunks. You know? I mean, and for the sake of fun, should we look at these decks side by side? Sure. Where did I put the New Wave? Okay. See, I just got two cards. Archetypes deck, like, proving my point and making me look silly at the same time. I mean, I think that, I mean, this is an Oracle deck, and I don't know if that's a cheaty thing to do, but it obviously goes well. Because, and I find that Kim Cran's decks go well with a lot of decks because of the use of black and white, and also the use of the whole colorway. Like, see, cute. But this is a great deck to pair with Kim Krans anyway. It's in the same like energy. It has a lot of black. It has a lot of circular motifs in this deck too, which is cool. Very fun. I like these. Note to self, next spread that you do with this deck, pull a card from the archetypes. Cool. I just keep going because they keep looking good. They look good. Oh, look at it. And then it's like this is braided, and then this almost looks braided. Wow. My brother and I always say that. Wow. We're actually quoting Scott Pilgrim when he has a scene with Chris Evans. Michael Cera has a scene with Chris Evans, and Chris Evans plays a skateboarder / actor. And it's Scott Pilgrim's job to like kill these exes. If you've never seen Scott Pilgrim. And there's this one part where he knows he can't beat him in like hand-to-hand combat, so he challenges this like bro Chris Evans to do like, I don't even know what it's called, a grind. Yeah, a grind on a rail that goes down all these stairs, and that it's like it's way long, and the stairs go down this hill like so far that like he will bail out and die at the end. It's not gory or graphic. It's like a comic book movie. And so he's like, oh yeah, go do it. And so he tricks him into going to do it. And then like Chris Evans does the grind, and like Michael Cera and Kieran Culkin are standing there, and they're like, wow. And then each time it like cuts back to like the skateboarder, and then like cuts back to them, and they're like a longer wow. But it's like so deadpan. And then they're like, wow. I can't even, it's funny. Wow. Yeah, anyway, back to the deck. I love movies, and I love silly things, and that makes me so happy. And it reminds me of like my brother. So anyway, I say wow a lot to things that are dumb, but also to things that are cool. And it's always that like deadpan wow. Okay. Confronting. So this is number 4. I haven't been giving you numbers, but confronting versus comforting. So my confronting deck, and I have to admit, I have watched a handful of other people's videos, obviously, since I've been referencing them. And when I was picking these last night, I was excited because I was like, okay, well, no one's picking mine, which is great. And then I watched Kira. Oh, I forget her channel name. I'll put it up. And I think it was her deck, her choices. If it wasn't, I'll correct myself in editing. But she chose the Lubanko or Lubanko. I like to say Lubanko. I don't know why. As her confronting, and I would have to agree. I love this deck. I love the art style. I would watch a movie that was illustrated in this style. I would read a picture book that was. I love looking at this. I don't think I'll get tired of it. Something I noticed on camera is that I never really paid much attention to the borders, and they didn't really feel super big. But then when she was showing them, I was like, oh my gosh, these borders are distracting to me, or like why is there so much of a border at the bottom, etc. And I'm like, why is this bothering me? But like looking at this now, they just disappear, and that's the point. So I think it was another camera trick. But this is confronting. You know, there's a darkness to every card. There's a depth. There is a level of discomfort, and I don't mean like in the photo, but maybe in like what it arises in me. Like, and I don't mean discomfort as in anything bad or sad necessarily, but like someone staring straight at me, looking into the depths of my soul, and they have a lot of authority, and that is kind of freaky and good for you, period, sometimes, you know. Again, I'm someone who does like to think of the Lover's card as like so positive, and I know that there is a bigger definition, and I use it in readings sometimes, but this won't let you ignore it, you know? Like, ooh, like, this is creepy. It's such a good card, but it's creepy. Like this too, like, what does this mean? You know, so lots to discover and lots of feelings to explore, I think. And then my comforting, which kind of surprised me, but also doesn't at the same time, is the Enchanted, because it feels so happy, it feels so nostalgic. I'm comforted by things that are beautiful, and this is, you know, undeniably beautiful. I'm comforted by things of the past, vintage. You know, none of these cards, whether they're interpretive positively, negatively, neutral, otherwise, scare me to look at. Make me face myself. It's a soft message, you know? Even down to the colors and how they're somewhat muted. Okay, let's put them side by side, shall we? Whoa. It's definitely a big difference here. And I don't know that these could go next to each other because they just feel so discordant from each other. Let me know if it looks any different on camera. I love this version, by the way, this edition. If you can hear sirens, I'm sorry. I wanted this one because I loved the white border and I loved the backs. I think the backs are really pretty. Like even the Nine of Cups, like this is a dark world, you know? Yeah, no, these aren't fun to look at together for me. Are they fun to look at together for you? Because I'm not feeling it. They're for different days, different times, different readings, for sure. That's enough. Okay. Now I have to turn the page because I wrote notes. Or not really notes, but I wrote down the tag. Okay, we have three more head-to-heads, really. Every day versus every so often. So I, too, had the Frau Grand Duchess Tarot make an appearance. And not as my daytime, but as my everyday. And I feel like there's no way to open this deck without messing with the box. This is such a great everyday deck to me because I feel like it deals with the mundane, the home life, literally the day-to-day. It doesn't feel like, and I know this isn't what my day-to-day looks like, but this is theirs. This is a snapshot of a time and a lifestyle, you know. I mean, the guns are there because they're supposed to be swords. It's not like, we're not, what's the word? Glamorizing, or I wanted to say commercializing. This is what I get for filming a video first thing in the morning. We're not glamorizing or even, you know, I guess I have to move on. Maybe I'll remember the word in post. fix it in post. We'll fix it in post. Guns are bad, okay? that's what I was trying to say. Yeah, but it's about like realities and normalities and different aspects of, I don't know, maybe suburban life. Definitely mostly white suburban life. There are different, you do see different races in this, but it's mostly white, which is, when we think of the 1950s in America, maybe it's through that lens, because that's what the media was showing most, you know. And then you get like activism and things like that, like feminism and social justice. And that, oh my gosh, that's so fitting for the Seven of Wands. I just realized that. But this is something, because of the situations and the context in this deck, it feels very accessible to be able to use for me every day. It doesn't feel extreme in its subject matter. It deals with sad things. It deals with realities of things. And I think there's a certain amount of like satire to like this deck too. But like this, I get it. Family, home, like the state of the world, like, and the state of the world for, it's definitely showing mainly like, you know, middle-class families. And maybe that's also, I'm like getting a deep dive into this, I'm so sorry. Maybe that's also about like what feels comfortable or what people strive for. Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking. I feel like I need to do a video on this deck and get my thoughts together and write notes and things like that. But I think the main reason why I really like it is the vintage quality to it. And like I said, in a way that other vintage decks don't do. Like, it just feels like every day. Daily life, let's say that, for who knows, Americans. It makes me think of my parents, right? Like, it makes me think of my dad's upbringing in Buena Park and Westminster, California in like the 60s. He was born in 59, you know? Yeah. Okay, so that was my everyday. And then I put She-Wolf. I chose She-Wolf as my every so often. And that is because it is beautiful, but it's not something that I get a lot of intuitive hits from, and it's not something that I have like really bonded with. And I know that's probably not the fault of the decks. It's probably mine. Look, it's like in order, and I'm making it not in order, which is fine. But I feel like this is a deck that I want to pull out for occasions. I feel like I could definitely afford to learn more about this deck and spend more time with it, but it just hasn't been that time. Maybe it will be, but it hasn't been. I haven't felt pulled to do that. But it's very beautiful and very special, and I recently purchased the second edition versus the first edition that I had previously, and I'm much happier with it. So, you know, there's always that opportunity. But as of now, it's not something that, like, I guess before I found myself reaching for interpretations and things like that. Now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, I could actually I could see some symbolism, or I could see some energy of, you know, what I could interpret, but I don't know if I could interpret these in multiple ways every time I saw them. And I think that's where I get nervous and I get in my own way, because I won't use a deck, or I won't read as much or whatever, because I think that I get in this repetitive thing where I remember, like, okay, 6 of Wands, healing, move, or not, I'm sorry, I was thinking 6 of Swords. 6 of Wands, victory, you know, and then like that's it. And I get so fixated on that, like, that if the imagery doesn't call me to find other meanings, then it's really hard for me to interpret it in more than one way. And maybe that's why I have so many decks, and like that's why I continue to want to read guidebooks and read tarot books, because I want to have more of an expansive instead of a fixated. Maybe I'm like an obsessive person, maybe that has to do with it. I'm not diagnosed with anything, doesn't mean I don't have anything, but like I don't know if I have any conditions, or yeah, like mental conditions that would kind of explain my fixation on certain things. Maybe, I mean, I know I'm like neurotic. Wow, this got really deep. This verses got really deep. But yeah, I just love when people have such an expansive vocabulary of their understanding. And I feel like I have an expansive mind, but my mind likes to get really, really stuck and repetitive about certain ideas, and I'm trying to fight that. Anyway, that is how I viewed this deck before, so maybe it won't be like that going forward. And that's why I own it, is because I appreciate it and I see potential in it. I don't know. I don't feel great about the way these look together. What do you think? It's funny too, because like they're both kind of vintagey, but like this feels, I know it's like heavily 70s, but honestly, it just feels like, I don't know, 20, like when it was made. Like when was it made? Like the mid 2010s? Because that's what it feels like. Okay, yeah, 2011 is what, or Serpent Fire was created in 2011. So I bet you this was made around like 2015. I think I got it, when it first was made, I think. That's kind of fun. It kind of goes. Well, and it's the same color. Wow, it's like literally almost the same color. Almost. So yeah, this just reminds me of a certain time stylistically. Yeah, they're not cute. They're not cute together. They're cute individually. Let's move on. So we have our overrated versus underrated. And it was really hard for me to find something overrated, because like if I have it, why would it be super overrated, right? And I have been getting rid of things consistently for the past 6 months. So I did settle on the Lion Strider, which is a deck. I only have the little baby one, the mini. It's a deck that I think is really pretty. And I gifted it to my mom, actually, because I felt like it was her energy. But I have seen multiple people talk about how this deck is something that they use all the time, and I don't. And I also don't really get it, how it can be used all the time. And that maybe, like, again, maybe I'm not bonded to it. And I was gifted the mini, and I like it because it's something I can easily, you know, take with me somewhere. But, oh, here's a, printed in Poland. Sorry, I was reading it. Like, I really do like the art, but I don't feel like, I don't know, maybe the mini isn't helping. But I don't know, I feel like this deck got gassed up a lot, and I maybe because it was so different and it had a lot of negative space, and we like that. I like that, you know. It's watercolor, and it's modern, but I don't think it's as cool as other things whatsoever. I also have the otherkin, and I bought that one because I think I liked it a little bit better. I don't know, you guys. I'm just not, like, I'm not going to sing the praises of the Lion Strider. And I think it's really, really cool that there are people who like it a ton. So, my underrated, I feel like I have a lot of decks that are talked about. So, it was hard for me to find an underrated. And that's interesting because I saw the other people say that they had a million underrated decks. And maybe I can say that when I've acquired a few more decks on my list. But this one, interestingly enough, is also watercolor. It's also an oracle. But I don't really hear people talk about this. It's the Visionary I Ching or I Ching. I like to say I Ching, but I feel like I've been corrected before. I think that this deck, is a great learning deck to learn the I Ching or I Ching system. I love that there's two different descriptions. Like, there is the divinatory interpretation, and then there is the I Ching reference. So thunder above, mountain below, water above, fire below. And then lastly, I am in love with this art. And this is not art that I would, like, put in my home, but in a card and in a deck, I think it's so beautiful. And I love how they go from, like, muted to bright and back again. I love how, I don't know, like, mood inciting it is, and, like, it feels so, like, natural and it, I don't know, like, I want to say emotional, but it's not that it feels emotional, it, like, creates emotion, you know? And so I don't know, I think I've seen someone put this in a video once, and I just think it's so beautiful and powerful, and I think it is underrated. Should we read one? Okay, okay, this one's good. Okay. Let me get the book. This is 12, Stand Still, Sky Above, Earth Below. 12. In periods of standstill or stagnation, confusion and disorder can prevail. Small-minded and self-serving forces arise when the powers of clarity and creativity are on the decline. The inmates are overrunning the prison and its guards. In such times, summon up your fortitude. Don't shine your light, simply withdraw. The wise take shelter in their own integrity and quietly remain faithful to their principles. Retreat from public activities and common exchanges until the times favor direct action. Concentrate on personal affairs with a humble dignity, even if it means letting go of some short-term rewards. Desiring to change a situation too quickly creates extra conflict. By accepting some hardship while striving to maintain integrity, you are preparing for future growth. Remember that a seed of prosperity is often hidden inside a husk of misfortune. So then it has like changing lines, and it talks about what the lines mean in this glyph, which is really cool. So it's a really good study deck, but I think it's a really good oracle, like to stand alone. Yes, you might want to rely on the book, but I think just with the key word or key phrase and the imagery, you can use your intuition and divine something yourself, you know? I don't know. I think this is really underrated. I don't know if anyone agrees. So let's see them side by side. A big, like, oversized oracle and this mini. I don't know if this is in the middle. I don't know if it's lined up. I've been this way the whole video. Please forgive me. I don't hate it. They're just so similar in their, I mean, I know they're very different, but they're both like line work with watercolor. And so kind of that lends itself to being in harmony with each other. And I kind of do like the fact that this is a black background or border and that this is white. A little red in the lips and then the blue. I like it. Yeah, I like it a lot. Okay, so on to the last verses, the last prompt. And this was great because I don't do, oh, maybe I should tell you what it is. It's light work versus shadow work. And Marlena said, you know, think of it as conscious versus unconscious. And I really liked that because I don't do light work and shadow work per se, but there are different feelings of decks and things that bring out your unconscious more and decks that are more your conscious. So maybe a watery or an earthy deck might be more unconscious, and an airy or a fire deck might be more conscious mind, right? More on the like your intelligence and your action versus your emotion and your physical world. And so many times my physical world informs me of like what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking that is unconscious. So I have anxiety. I used to have acute anxiety and panic attacks, and now I have like a generalized anxiety, and I don't even realize I'm anxious until I feel it in my body, and my body feels uncomfortable and I know the signs, and then I'll be like, oh, I have anxiety. Something must be happening, you know? So anyway, that being said, I chose the Rosebud Tarot as my light work or my conscious deck. Again, I could have chosen a million things, but I'm trying to get some variety in here, okay? And this is one of the ones that I would put. This is all very conscious for me. None of this feels very unconscious. These are realms that I think about, or I live in, or things that I can intellectualize. Images that we have seen. And I don't mean like specific images. I guess what I'm saying is subject matter that we're comfortable with or that are familiar, even if they're not super comfortable. Kind of like archetypal universal things. Like we see joy. We don't have to like look into that deeply to see joy, you know? Or we see someone who's nurturing and maybe on a journey to help someone, or yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting lost in the in the imagery. That's what it seems like to me, is like someone who's ready to go and ready to help and be there as an emotional support or an act of service or something like that, from a caring, loving, emotional place. Someone who embodies their emotions, but is someone who wants to get things done and is going to help wherever they can, right? It's not that hard. It's not that unconscious. It's right here at the surface for you. And I appreciate this deck, and it's beautiful. You know, it's not hiding anything. And it's also not asking you to like dive beyond your conscious mind. It doesn't mean you're not diving deep. It just means you're not diving beyond your conscious mind. So that's my Lightwork or conscious deck. And I chose the Witch's Tarot, which is a new acquisition of mine. Acquisition. And I originally saw this on Meg's channel on Rose Honey Ritual. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, wow, I need this. And then I got it and I was like, oh no. Because art-wise, it's incredible. And that's why I wanted it. But then I was like, do I relate to these things? And it's not that I'm not drawn to this or it doesn't feel comfortable in this aesthetic. Like, I don't feel comfortable in this aesthetic, because I do. I think my Tumblr literally is this. This is the theme of my Tumblr, not the photo, but like everything else, which is really funny. But what I realized this is that it kind of tapped into it. It feels very unconscious. And I know that it's very also like, oh yeah, this is very stereotypically like shadow work. It looks like a shadow work deck. Like you could buy it with that intention, or it could be advertised with that intention. But that's not really what I mean. I feel like there's something about the energy, the look, the posture, the framing. I don't know. There's something about each image that feels a little bit scary, and it doesn't have to do with the fact that this person has horns. It has to do with the fact that this person is out of focus. And I can tell on their face that it's not a happy or action image. It's something deeper and unconscious. It feels like swimming in your unconscious mind. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for me to do some work here. Okay, let's side by side them. People like play their music in their cars, obviously, but they do it like really loud here and with their windows down and stuff, because they want everyone else to hear. And so if you can hear like weird mumbling, it's a song that someone's playing out of their car. Can these work? Who knows? I'm not sure. I don't think they do. I mean, I don't think they're visually like offensive together, but I don't think you can pair those together. I don't think so. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's weird because I think visually they're okay as far as like, yeah, they don't feel conflicting, but like I said, the energy of them feels very, very off. like they're offending each other. Yeah, I don't like it. And this is so mature, and then in content that something like this, I don't want to see these next to each other. I don't want to see children next to very mature subject matter. I don't like it. Okay, we'll stop. So those were my tarot to the extremes. I did have a couple of oracles in there. Did we like it? What did you think? I'm sorry for the ramblings. Maybe that's the point. But I want to thank you for being here. Thanks for being curious. Thanks for being my friend. And my mom's coming. I gotta go.